Hello everyone and welcome to my February update plus Medellin review. And here's the thing, I left my corporate job around 1 month and a half at this point. 1 month and a half at this point, and I've been fully indulging into high ticket sales. And this video will be to give you a little update from the last video that I made back in the end of January, and to actually give you a live review of what it's like to be in Medellin as a digital nomad. So I'm currently not there right now, but I just came back here to Ecuador a couple of days ago. But so far, the 3 weeks I spent there, I believe, are so amazing and incredible, and it's worth talking and expressing why it might be a great option for you. So here was the situation I was before going there. I was pretty much offerless, I was out of offer, I was a bit depressed, not knowing what really to do, and the suggestion to go to Medellin came around by my mother and some friends, and I decided to try it out. I was hesitant till like the very end, up until I was like in the airport and said, okay, fuck it, I gotta do this one way or another. And that's how it came around. And so far, I'm so glad to have done it, because from the very beginning, while you are there, your survivor mode kicks in, and everything starts working for you to, resolve your current situation and make things work for you. As soon as I arrived, I started networking so fast with people I believe they were around Medellin, and I also came to know what I now consider a very good friend of mine called Nicolas. He literally on day second invited me to his penthouse. We chat together. We went into the jacuzzi. After that, we did so many activities, bro. I appreciate it. But yeah, those are some of the connections that I was able to build while there, just because I put myself into an unfamiliar situation. So probably that would be a good idea for you if you're kind of hesitant on your journey right now, to just go to Medellin in particular. I don't know. But yeah, having talked about that, now let's go into the community aspect of Medellin and why I consider it to be the most important factor as a digital nomad. The thing is, there is such a big network community of fellow digital nomads, not only in the high ticket sales space, but also in all industries across, engineers, agency owners, business owners, marketers, whatever you name it, it's here, bro. It's amazing. The city is literally full of networking cafes where you go into each other and you will see a bunch of people doing all sorts of crazy stuff, crypto. So to be honest, it's quite easy to connect because, everyone is almost in the same mood as you, enjoying their life, enjoying the digital nomad stuff. And I find out that they're pretty willing to help if you got any concern. Now on what is probably very important to mention for Latin America in general, and Colombia for sure, is the safety aspect. And to be honest, I consider Medellin to be on a good safety point. I might sound like crazy, but bear in mind I actually come from a Latin country, from Ecuador, which I consider to be more dangerous than Medellin right now. So it was quite easy for me to navigate for everything. I was speaking in Spanish, and people would understand me immensely. I do not have a native accent, so people were asking me about where I was from exactly. But for me overall, it was not a problem around safety at all. But if you're going for anywhere else in the world where is quite safe, please be mindful. You have to be extra careful in places around here. Although Medellin, especially in the areas near Poblado and Laureles / Estadios, is pretty freaking safe. So you will be pretty much safe all day around. But bear in mind, if you see a dark alley, nobody is walking through there, probably it's not a good idea to go through that. If you see a sketchy people, for sure, maintain your distance and so on. And I believe as long as you do that, you'll be perfectly fine. If you want to be extra safe, you can always ask some of the locals, because I find them being very helpful. Or also get, a Colombian girlfriend or whatever, or learn Spanish yourself so you can navigate here more clearly. And yeah, that would be my take on that. Now for the activities that you can do in Medellin and the surrounding areas. I found out that it's a very complete city, in my opinion. If you like partying, bro, you will be like in heaven. There are literally discos, nightclubs everywhere from Monday to Sunday. From Monday to Sunday, working, and the city is full vibrant. There is literally a park called Park Yaris that, to be honest, I would not recommend to spend around, although it's a safe area to be, but it's literally full of hookers and so on. So it's quite of an interesting scene because every single day is pretty much busy as you can get, and even more on weekends for sure. But it was something so weird for me to comprehend. It's like, bro, it's like going to like the supermarket, but for, but for that, you know. Also, there's a lot of nature activities nearby. I went into one hike, and I know my friend goes into plenty of hikes all the time, as well as, for example, Guatapé. Over there, you can do jet skiing, helicopter rides, paragliding, ATVs, like so many freaking activities, tours, and so on. I actually saw a mall with beach volleyball, which for me was was like so random. Like, why do they have beach volleyball on the top of the mall? And yeah, that's just to let you know that there is a ton of stuff to do in the city. And I honestly feel like my 3 weeks there, although I was not fully a tourist, were pretty short. I feel like I could be there for like the entirety of the 3 months that I'm allowed and have a great time around. Now, in terms of food, and I gotta say, this is coming from a first world income perspective. So my reality might not exactly represent the locals on this. And I find it to be, you know, quite cheap to eat and go out in Colombia, in Medellin. Although Medellin is the most expensive city in Colombia, and is for pretty much the reason of tourism, tourists, and pretty high demand for housing. But yeah, so far I feel like on the higher end of the restaurants, it would be 1/5 of the total cost that you would spend in the US for something similar. And on like the lower end, you could expect to pay as half of what you would pay on the US. There are pretty much a lot of options for everyone. I have seen menus out there, you know, drink, soup, and, you know, a main dish for less than $2.50 or 10K pesos. And personally, in my experience, I think the highest amount I ever spent on dining was around 200K pesos, which comes around $50. Which, by the way, this is a lot of money for Colombia. It's literally like 4 days of salary for a minimum wage worker in Colombia. So that's why I say my perspective might probably not represent a lot of people here. But yeah, if you go as an American, you will enjoy a lot of, you know, financial freedom benefits, so to say, or exchange rate benefits. In terms of transportation, I consider Medellin to be pretty high on the list. Like, in my opinion, the system is pretty much advanced. They use different types of vehicles, let's say like trams, buses, the normal train lanes, and probably the most famous thing of Medellin public transport system, the metro cables, where you can actually go on top of the mountains onto, like, you know, the more low-income areas, which, by the way, they have amazing views of the cities in general. So this aspect on itself of Medellin and the metro cables could be an attraction on its own. And to be honest, the fare is quite cheap. It's less than $1. I came around, is probably around 90 cents or something like that. And it's super clean, it's super neat. You don't see any graffitis or trash on top, you know, on top of the rails or anything. Of course, on the safety aspect, if the train is full, be mindful of your pockets and everything. But other than that, I believe you will be safe and you'll have an amazing time. If wherever you want to go does not leave you with the train, or the train already closed, you can always use Uber. I found it pretty affordable sort of sense. And even cheaper is to use the Moto Uber option, which is actually quite fun, but of course more dangerous. So yeah, you have all these options around for you to mobilize yourself, and I think you can live a pretty good life on this alone. Now, in terms of housing in Medellin for a foreigner can be seen pretty pretty inexpensive, so to say, pretty affordable. But you want to consider very few areas to, get your apartment and so on. First off, being a poblado, which is obviously the most famous one and the most expensive. From my experience, I see you could get an apartment for like $1,000 to like $1,200, and that would be pretty neat. This area, by far, is, I would say, the nicest. Is on top. It's like going up on the mountain, so you can get amazing views from there. Maybe, going up steps could be a problem depending on where you settle exactly. But yeah, that would be pretty much. The friend I told you about, the penthouse that he's in, he pays several grand for it. He actually told me he believes it's a pretty good deal, because otherwise you can go for like above that. So yeah, you have options for everyone. And then the one I would recommend personally, which is around 30 to 40% cheaper in terms of rent, is actually called Laureles Estadio. And that's the second most popular, district in Medellin where you can stay. And also the second most expensive. And probably the second safest one as well. So I personally recommended that. I stayed in a park near what is called the First Laureles Park, and it was pretty centric, pretty neat. It was pretty amazing. And to be honest, whenever I go back, I might consider to be there as well. Now, be in mind that, as a side note, a lot of foreigners are deteriorating their view for foreigners, because, technically we are gentrifying the city, which is sad. And there is a lot of inequality in the city. Like, you can go in the metro less than 5 minutes away from the poblado, and you will see like signs of extreme poverty, of people picking, every garbage they can, every piece of scrap metal they can to make a living. And that's truly difficult to see, I would say. So yeah, a lot of people can be desperate here, so always be careful on that, and and be mindful of their situation as well. Because yeah, Medellin is a pretty popular city, and a lot of properties are in demand. So yeah, the prices have been pretty high for locals, and every single local person that I got to spoke was complaining about this. Maybe it's not a problem that comes from the digital nomads, but the perspective is there. So for sure, be mindful of that, although it might not mean anything to you. In terms for the plans for March, I gotta say, I will be this month in Ecuador for almost the entire month, and by the end of it, I will be going back to Miami for 1 week or a few weeks around, to then move to Southeast Asia, specifically in Thailand. After that, I don't know what else is gonna be. And currently, I gotta say, I'm in a role, which is an interesting story on its own, and we can go deep on that on a later episode. But yeah, so far, the goal for this month is to finally make a reliable source of income. I know in the current offer I can get between 5 to 10, so it can work pretty well. But everything seems kind of sketchy right now, so we will find out very soon. Anyway, thank you for watching this video update, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye.